Okay, I see someone was asking about the bare metal instance, applicable scenarios, and also to build up some network inside and outside of your cloud or your own IDC. So later on, I'm going to after I show this slide, I'm going to show the console demo. So in the console demo, I will definitely help you to understand the more concept, like not only the instance but also the storage and also the network for the ECS. Okay. Okay. Now what we are looking at is one of the particular concept is called the instance failover, right? So instance failover means because it is a software product, it is a software product. It has to be, you know, that no one can make sure it is always there. And remember, we have a number which also being introduced at the very beginning of the training by Shannon. It is our single ECS availability. It is not 100%. No one can guarantee that. But the question is, when something was happening to my ECS, or I would say when something was happening on the background hardware and the hardware is broken, which make my virtual server broken, what should I do? So Alibaba Cloud will make sure we keep testing and monitoring the backend hardware. When something was happening in your particular ECS, we will do the silently and automatically migration from one not healthy physical server to another healthy physical server for your ECS. Okay, but make sure this kind of migration will only happen in the one zone. It will never cross zones, but we will migrate your ECS, the bad one, to a new healthy hardware and make sure your ECS can come back, healthy just in 30 seconds. Okay, that is about instance failover. That also emphasizes the importance of the HA setup. If you really care about your application availability, if you want to gain something better and higher than this number, you may consider to put at least 2 or more different ECS and to manage them in a cluster so that you can gain more availability. Okay. And regarding to the billing mode, which someone may care about, is how can you Alibaba Cloud charge me, right? We charge the ECS usage through the different kind of the billing models. The first one is called the pay-as-you-go. Pay-as-you-go is easy to understand, right? Pay-as-you-go means no matter how much I used, we will keep counting the bill based on the time and usage. So it is very good one, because if you don't have a very steady plan of the resource, you can just for whatever you used and pay whatever you already done, right? But if you have a long-term usage commitment, you can use the subscription mode, which give you a better discount comparing to the pay-as-you-go mode and give you a more long-term and stable usage. And a very special one is called preemptible. When we say preemptible, it means it need to be by the price. So it is beta-based pricing. You have to do the bait comparing to some other users. And if you bait the higher price, but it is still lower than the standard pay-as-you-go price, you can earn the usage with this low price for 1 hour, only 1 hour, okay? Another hour, you need to bait again. It sounds a little bit weird, but this one gives the customer even more flexibility to use our ECS to run some very temporary workload, right? So make sure you can finish the workload in 1 hour and make sure you don't want to store anything persistently in the ECS. You can use this preemptible instance to gain a better price and just drop it after you use it, okay? That is ECS billing model. And now let's talk about storage. Regarding the storage, we call it the cloud disk, right? The cloud disk. So cloud disk, sometimes we say it is the block storage comparing to the file system. It is a block storage. So block storage means it is a very raw disk, raw data space. And in Alibaba Cloud, based on the performance, we give you the different choices. Ultra is based on the traditional disk, and it is kind of a spin, spin, but based on the different layers of your disk. And recently we have the SSD disk, which is faster but a little bit more expensive, right? Different choices. And in this chart, we are showing you that in Alibaba Cloud, we use a module called the Pangu file system to manage all the cloud disks. And at the same time, we have a rule called the 3 redundant copies. 3 redundant copies means everything you write to the disk, we make it a small piece. And this small piece will be duplicated for at least 3 copies and put distributedly in the file system. So in case one of the hardware is broken, your data piece is lost here, you still have at least 2 or 1 pieces can be used to recover, right? To recover this piece, which give you even higher data reliability for your anything stored in the cloud disk. For cloud disk, there's something you need to know, which is cloud disk. It is an individual resource. It has to be created by yourself, and it has to be created in a particular zone, right? Similar like the ECS. ECS has to be in a region and in a zone. The disk also. And there's also another restriction is the disk can only be mounted to the instance in the same zone. In the examination, we have this question, right? So this disk, they cannot be used for another ECS in another zone. This is not allowed. They can only be mounted to some instance in the same zone. It could be here, could be here, but they have to stay in the same zone, right? So that is one thing I want to emphasize for this part. So Joshua is asking, is that cloud disk is managed disk specific to a VM? Is that cloud disk is managed disk specific? Oh, yes. Joshua, yeah, you can see that. It is a managed disk from a specific VM, but it can also be considered an independent resource because it can be unmounted from a VM, and they don't need to mount to anyone because they will just be put there. And in the future, you can mount to any other ECS. So it's kind of independent, but if they don't mount to a ECS, they are not providing values. That would be my answer to your question, Joshua. Okay, so cloud disk, right? Here is just a quick comparison between the different ECS, the capacity, the maximum capacity. And what I care about is the performance, right? If you really want to have something faster, right, you need to consider using the enhanced SSD. It is definitely faster and even bigger throughput, right? Which means how many data can be write and read in just 1 second. Really huge throughput, right? But again, money is the key factor right here. The better performance means more expensive price. Now we are saying that cloud disk is the one you use to store the data, but how about the disaster recovery? How about the disk is broken? How can I get my data back? In the Alibaba Cloud ECS, especially the disk area, we use a snapshot to do the disk backup and recovery. Snapshot is such a common concept in the storage area. It is just like you take a camera to take something in that particular moment, right? To make it persistent in your memory. And this snapshot is you take something at a particular moment, so you keep all the data at that time being persistent stored. In the future, if something is broken and you want to go back to that particular moment, you can roll back that snapshot and your data will be recovered. Okay, that is the idea of the snapshot. Can snapshot be restored to a virtual machine? Yes, definitely. Joshua, to be more specific, snapshot can be used to restore a disk, a cloud disk. And then you mount that cloud disk to the ECS. then you got your data recovered. Okay, it's kind of 2 steps: snapshot for disk for ECS, then you get everything recovered. Okay, disk snapshot, and here are some of the numbers. I may not focus too much on the numbers, and because in the examination we don't ask numbers, but you do know we may have some soft limitation about the numbers of snapshots you can create and automatic snapshot, right? You can create. These numbers are just a soft limitation. If you have more requirement than this soft limitation, you can file a ticket or contact our solution architect so we can adjust these numbers from the backend. Talking about a snapshot, what is the internal mechanism? We call it incremental mechanism, which means the first snapshot you are looking at here, it is a full set snapshot, which means every data will be recorded. So usually the first snapshot is not very fast. If your data is large, the volume is large, it takes some time, but the second one and the third one will be faster. Because what the second one and the third one do is they will not do the full copy anymore. They will just record the difference and the data change between this timeline, between this time spot to this time spot, right? In the future, if only B1 was changed to B2, they will only record the B2, which make the next snapshot is faster, is quite faster. Okay, so this is just incremental mechanism I'm talking about. Okay, then let's go here. So Joshua also asked a question about the image, right? So using ECS, it is just a CPU and a memory and a disk. There's nothing inside. You still need to install some images, which is the operating system, the running environment, the runtime environment, right? So in Alibaba Cloud, we provide different choices for the image where they are coming from. From Alibaba Cloud public release, we have Red Hat, we have Ubuntu, we have CentOS, we have Windows. Those are the collaboration vendors with us. And also to save you some of the efforts, we use the combined operating system with the application layer to make a marketplace. You can buy those images from Alibaba Cloud Marketplace. That will be much easier because not only you have the operating system in the image, but also you have the so-called the application environment installed already. It saves you a lot of personal efforts. And another scenario is if you are a QA engineer and you are a developer engineer, if you want to share your running environment, you can just create a custom image, which defined from your own ECS, and you share it with your peers, with your colleagues, so that they can duplicate and reproduce your environment immediately. Right? So shared image is a similar idea, right? You have a custom image, you share with others, it became a shared image. So all in all, the image gives you the flexibility to build up your own environment and to share it with others. Okay. So networking. Now you know ECS has CPU and memory for specification, and the ECS need to have some cloud disk, right, for the persistent storage. The third point I want to make here is how ECS can communicate with each other and even communicate with outside of the internet. So this concept, the VPC, the virtual private cloud, is something you were looking at as very important to help you to understand Alibaba Cloud networking design. So if I have to pick up one product you need to understand from Alibaba Cloud, it is VPC, okay? Because you know VPC, you know our networking concept on the cloud clearly, and you know how you can design and architect your own cloud infrastructure, right? So what is a VPC? VPC is a virtual private cloud. It is a software layer network internal isolation boundary. So everything inside the VPC, it is assumed that they cannot communicate with other resources in other VPC. So APC provides a very good isolation from the network point of view. So Inside the VPC, we have some additional devices. In Alibaba Cloud, we call them the router and the switch, the virtual router and the virtual switch. Every VPC has one and only one virtual router, because in the future, you may want to go outside and go inside. So every traffic will go through this vRouter. So in the vRouter, they also have the route table, okay? But someone may say, what is the VPC? You said it's an isolation network, right? But actually VPC is giving you a address block like 172, like 168 or something, right? It is an address block, CIDR block. And this block is usually large. And if you want to separate this block into small one, you want to build with our vSwitch. So vSwitch can be used to build up the small subnet in the VPC. Okay, remember that vSwitch is used to build the small subnet in the VPC. And every ECS here, they need to belong to at least one VPC and also belong to at least one vSwitch. Why we do that kind of definition? Because once we are clear about your ECS VPC and vSwitch scope, we will very easily to assign an IP address for your ECS, right? Remember, every VPC is the address block, and every vSwitch is an even smaller subnet. So if you have a ECS attached to this VPC and attached to this vSwitch, we will know this ECS should get one of the random IP internal address from this small vSwitch defined network. Okay, you got the concept, right? VPC, vSwitch, and how and why every ECS need to attach to at least one VPC and one vSwitch. After you know this, another two concepts I'm going to share with you is the first one is called a security group. Security group, I believe, if you know AWS or Azure, it is a very similar concept. It can be considered an internal firewall. So security group is working like this. Security group, they define the policies for your network connection in and out. So the policy is defined as inbound and outbound. For the inbound, which means you are trying to define what kind of IP address or source IP address through what kind of protocol and through what kind of port they should be allowed or should be denied, right? So security group is again an internal firewall. It's protecting the ECS level traffic communication. It could be in and out. So later on, I'm going to show this on the console also. What is now you know the concept basically about VPC, security group. What is the EIP? EIP is a special Alibaba Cloud offering. It is an elastic public IP address. It is an interesting independent device. It is independent device, so you can apply a EIP here. It's just a standalone product, and you can attach the EIP to the ECS. Immediately, this ECS will have a public IP address, right? So that they can go through the internet and then they can be connected from the internet. So it is a very interesting function. So EIP gives the ECS capability to talk to internet. And the EIP is also more than ECS connection. They can be connected to the SLB, net gateway, whatever can use a public IP address, EIP can serve the purpose. Okay, so now you have the three concepts understood. Now let's give a quick recap about ECS networking, right? So if you want to create a ECS with some public IP address, you can create directly from the creation process. Later on, I will show you the creation. But if you don't have a public IP address at the very beginning, you can still get another chance, which is you can bind a EIP to the ECS you can communicate with the internet directly, right? And the last one, and the second one is, if your ECS don't have any public IP address, but you still want to go to the internet, you can try the NET gateway or the SLB. They can also help you to connect to the internet. So remember, 3 different devices, right? I don't spend too much time on this one, but EIP and server load balancer, I will introduce right now after ECS. Okay, now let's go to the console. I believe after my long time introduction, you may want to really take a real look about what the ECS looks like. So let's go back to the console to give you a fresh understanding and demonstration. Now you are looking at alibabacloud.com, this website. I already logged in myself, so I click the console to go to the management dashboard. If it is the first time you use the console, where you should start with, you should start from here. If you put your mouse here, you will see there's a list on the left side. If you click the product and service, you can see the full product portfolio can be shown from here. And if you want to pick up a particular product, you just type in the keyword, they will show the search result. Let's start from the ECS, right? I click on this menu and I will go to the ECS console. In the ECS console, there's a lot of some menus on the left side, but you want to start from here. Remember the instances, right? So ECS is purchased and managed based on the instance. The first thing I'm going to demo is how can we create an instance for yourself, right? Remember, here is you are looking at is the regions from Alibaba Cloud. Since we are in Malaysia, I'm going to go here, go this region, and make sure we choose the proper region first, right? So I'm going to go to this. Let me open my VPN to make the speed a little bit faster. Because I'm in Beijing, China right now, so connect to the Malaysia region make a little bit slower. Give me a minute. Okay. Okay, let me also connect to my company network. Maybe I can make a little bit. Sorry, because I'm also working from home, and I think the network connection is not very good. No, let me try another region. Maybe let me try another region. Oh, come on. Okay, let's. I have another browser, so I can move to another browser. Console. Okay. Yes. instances. Okay, so please allow me to use another one. Maybe later on I'll figure out what's the problem. So now I'll be using the Singapore region, okay? Put it in your mind. When I trying to create an instance at the very beginning, you see this is the whole page you will be looking at. Because you already have the knowledge I introduced in the slide, so most of the concepts should be should not be a very strange concept to you. Remember, for the ECS, firstly, you decide what kind of a billing method you want to use. Subscription, pay-as-you-go, and preemptible instance. You already know what it is, right? For the demo purpose, I choose pay-as-you-go here. And remember, I told you, you need to decide which region you may have to pick up. So Singapore, let's do it. And you see in Singapore, there are 3 available zones, which means there are 3 data centers deployed in Singapore. You can, based on your, and I said for the HA purpose, right? You can at least put the same results in 2 regions, in 2 zones. Now let's just pick up the zone A, for example. So I put it in zone A, and now you are looking at is the most complex conception and configuration. Remember the x86, heterogeneous, and bare metal, which are the 3 different CPU architects, right? And for the demo purpose, I choose the common x86 architect. But even in this category, based on the business scenario, you have different other choices. And to save some money, I use a very simple one called the entry level. This one is a small instance. You can see a lot of choices here. I use 1 CPU and 1 GB memory and my specification, right? It is easy for the demo purpose. So now I decided to use the x86 and 1 CPU and 1 GB memory ECS. Then I'm going to decide what kind of runtime environment I need to deploy in my ECS. So this is called an image. Remember, I introduced what is the image. We have the 4 kind of different choices. Generally speaking, you may come from here, the public image. Remember, Joshua asked about the Ubuntu, right? So I can pick up the Ubuntu and using a particular version of the operating system. And I can even install a security agent in the ECS. And here is began to talking about the storage. Remember, ECS is a virtual machine. It means it has to have some operating system installed and running somewhere, right? The somewhere is called the system disk. System disk is the disk you have to use to install your operating system on. So we cannot say, I don't need a system. System disk is mandatory. It has to be there, right? So at least 1 system disk is needed. And another concept is called a data disk, which means you can use some other disk to store some other data, like the file system data. You can up to 16 data disk plan. You can keep adding more, right? You keep adding more. So in this slide, in this demo, I'm going to only create 1 and make it 20 gigabyte, right? Now I have 1 system disk and 1 data disk, right? That is some of the basic concept, but it's not done yet. Okay, you have to consider the networking configuration. Okay, what's that? Okay. After that, you needed to decide your network configuration. Remember, you need to put at least your ECS in 1 VPC. So these VPCs are whatever I already created in the region in the Singapore region. So I just pick up the default one. And in the VPC, remember, we have something called the vSwitch. vSwitch is used to exactly define your private address block, the CIDI block, right? So you can take the list and find out which vSwitch is proper for you. And you see there are 3 vSwitches here, but only 1 is able to choose. Why is that? Because only this vSwitch is sitting in the same zone with my ECS. Remember, I told you what vSwitch has to be in the same zone with the ECS. Our ECS is picked up in zone A, so this vSwitch is in zone A, so we can pick it up. Now, they will ask you another question. Do you want to assign a public IP address for it? I just pick up here. This one is not an EIP, okay? If you want to have a more flexible configuration, you can use EIP, but more convenient solution is you can just pick up here, we will automatically assign a public IP address for your ECS. Then we move to the security group. Security group, every ECS has to belong to at least one security group, right? So I select it, and I'm going to show, later on, I'm going to show you what's the security group inside, okay? I just make the ECS belongs to this security group. Now I almost finished the networking configuration. I'm going to the next page. Finally, you need to decide in the future, how can I access my ECS, right? How can I access my ECS? I access it through the password or key pair. So password is the most easy to understand one. So every Linux operating system, root user is the most privileged one. And you can define your own password, which will manage by yourself. And later on, you can use it to log into your ECS, right? You can even a name for your ECS. It's called demo Malaysia 1, right? And the others may not very important so far. And I go to the next. And here are some of the deployment and the resource group configuration. So later on, maybe it's not in our training scope, and we'll skip that. And then finally, we are here. We have everything set up. And we take a preview, and we are going to create the instance for sure. Because this is a demo one, I'm going to release it tonight. Today is 16, right? And I'm going to release it maybe this afternoon, okay? And I accept the terms, and I create instance. We go to the console. Now you see in Singapore region, there's one ECS, which called demo Malaysia 1 is creating, right? And this kind of creation usually takes less than 1 minute. So you can refresh. You can refresh to see they are running right now, right? So now I have one ECS created just now. And if you want to see the details, you can use the mouse to go inside. And inside the ECS, there are a lot of concepts called cloud disk. Remember, I have 2 disks. The first one is a system disk, and the second one is a data disk, right? And remember, I can do the snapshot. If I can create a snapshot from here, I'm going to create my MY demo 1, right? This is a sys. I can create it. And I can even create a snapshot for my M1 demo 1 data, right? So 2 snapshot is under creation. It's not very fast. It takes a little bit time. And you can go to the snapshot here to see the progress, right? If you refresh, you may see some progress later on. This is a cloud disk and a snapshot I mentioned also in the slide. So what about a security group? I didn't take a look into the security group internally. So I'm looking into the security group here. This is the one I attach to, and I can click here, and they will show you the exactly policy configuration inside. For this security group, they were defining the policy here. The policy has 2 different directions, inbound and outbound. Inbound means for whatever is coming to the ECS, I using these rules, right? Like say forbidden, allow, protocol, part, and the authentication type is IP address usually. And if you have some very loose rules, which you can allow every IP address to come in, you can define something like this, 0.00./0 to say I allow everyone any IP address. Okay, so particularly saying the policy here, we allow 80, we allow 22, right? 22 is SSH. And this is SSH, HTTPS, and this is for the Windows kind of remote desktop connection. Because we allow the 22 SSH, now I'm going to show you how can I connect to the instance itself, right? So here I have a public IP address, right? I can copy the public address and go to my my Mac laptop. This is my laptop, and I can SSH with the root, with the IP address, and here is my password, right? If you use ifconfig, you can see I'm showing you this is my ECS private IP address ended with 4576, right? So 4576, if you go back to the console and check it here, on this one, sorry, I should go to this browser, and you can see here, 4576, this is my exactly ECS, right? And someone may say, okay, I don't have a terminal like this from your Mac laptop. How can I connect to my ECS? We have a button here called connect. You can click, we will use a VNC to build up a visualized window from the browser. I hate this. What's wrong with my network? Okay. Oh, you see. Then I have the VNC connected. I can set up a password to connect to the VNC. Like, okay. Oh, I'm going to set up a password. This is for the VNC connection, right? Click OK and type in the VNC password and click OK. Now you are looking at the terminal also. You can type in the password and use ifconfig to check out the private IP address ended with 4576, right? So this is the same ECS I'm trying to do. And if you ping www.google.com, you will see they will responding because we have a public IP address assigned together with the ECS, right? So all in all, this is the ECS. And but I think this is not all. If I go back here, let me show this. Not this one. I go to the wrong browser. Okay, this one, right? And you go to the manage console, and you see I already show you the security group, right? The cloud disk, the snapshot, and you see the snapshot now it is fully completed, right? And you can roll back for any time if you have data broken. And also from the system disk, you can create your custom image, right? I'm going to do it right now, and I can call it my demo1 for demo only, and I can create the custom image directly. Once you do that, you have an image can be found from here. It's a little bit weird location, but it is here, images, right? You can see I just have my Malaysia demo1 was created. With this image, you can create instance, right? So it is just like a cycle. It is like a clone, right? You can have a ECS, you create an image, you use the image to create another instance. It's a kind of life cycle. Okay, let's go back to the instance and check out even more interesting features. Now you have a ECS. Your question will be, okay, I have only one CPU and one memory. How can I make it bigger, right? I want to have a 2 CPU and 2 memories. So what you need to do is to change the instance type. So now you have one CPU, right? And 1 gigabyte of memory, and you want to change it to a bigger one. You need to stop the instance first because it's related to the CPU and the memory. We cannot do it on the fly. We have to stop it first. Let's stop it. Let's refresh. So it stopped, right? It stopped. Now I'm going to change the type of the ECS. Here, they are telling you that, okay, you now have 1 CPU and 1 gigabyte. Let me know what else you want. I would say, let's just make a small change. I'm going to change it to the 2 CPU and the 4 gigabyte memory, okay? I just pick up a new instance and I click the change. It's just happening in seconds, right? I click the change, accept the terms. Did I accept the terms? Okay, it's changed. When we say it's changed, I go back here and do the refresh, and you see the CPU and the memory is just changed, right? What you want to do is you bring it back, you restart it, right? And you will see the ECS will coming back online very quickly, right? Very quickly. And you can even monitor it from the VNC console, I think. So it's restarting, right? Okay. I see it's coming back, right? Okay. And this is for the CPU and the memory. And someone may say, how about the disk? I want to extend my disk to a larger one. So, you know, we have already 2 disks, right? One is system disk is 40 gigabyte and the data disk is 20 gigabyte. You want to extend your system disk to a larger size. I would do like something like this. I'm going to SSH to my ECS, and because system disk usually under the root directory, I can make file. I can touch, you know, my demo.txt, right? We can make a file here and hello everyone, right? I write a file here, and you can even show something like df. I remember df.a, dh.a, and show my and my this is my Linux devices, right? And they have different disks attached to the system. So what I'm going to do is I go back to the console, and there's an option here. If you click this disk, and there's an option called the resize the disk, okay? You click the resize the disk. And the beauty part is if you reset the disk, you don't need even restart the ECS. You don't need to stop it. You can just resize it online, just like a hot fix. Previously, you are 40 gigabyte. You can take it to the 60 gigabyte. And I want to change it from 40 to 60, and I don't need to reboot my ECS, right? So you can just do this. You confirm. I have read the notes. Where is it? Okay, it's happening. Okay, so it's happening back to the data disk. Now, after this click, you are seeing that actually this is not clear. I go back to here and refresh here. Now you see my ECS system disk is 60 gigabyte, right? It's 60 gigabyte. So it gives you direct understanding about how can I change the size. If you change the size and you go back here and you go to the root and your ls and your file is still there. We didn't change anything from the data point of view. And you can consider the operating system is always there, right? If we break anything, the operating system may not work anymore. Okay, so hopefully through this demonstration, I'm showing you most of the major features ECS can have. And as I said, ECS you can consider and the full set of the CPU, memory, and storage working environment. And this working environment has their own private IP address, public IP address, can be connected with the internet, and then they can be very elastic. You can change your CPU and the memory size anytime you want. You can change your disk size anytime you want. And also regarding to the data disk, you can again go back to create your snapshot, and you can get your images. Right? In the future, you can duplicate even more data and the ECS instances by yourself. Also, to give you more insight of the ECS, on the left side, there's a lot of other menus, right? We already know what is the disk, what is the snapshot, and what is deployment. And in the future, if you want to monitor your ECS, you want to know the CPU usage, the disk usage, you can click the monitor to go there. And if you want to do even automatic management operation for your ECS, you can use something called the operation orchestration service. Both of these are free service, right? They can give you the capability to do something automatically in a batch of ECS. For example, you want to update a software in your 1,000 of the ECS, you can just create a task and list all the ECS there and define the software version or something. We will automatically do the upgrade in parallel. It's a very convenient feature, operation orchestration service. And Cloud Monitor, if you go here, if you want to check out where my ECS is, what is the performance, you can see, you can use the monitoring charts to look into the details of the ECS, the CPU usage, memory usage, and also the disk, whatever is writing into the disk and whatever package is coming in and coming out, how many TCP connections is built up right now. Again, it is about storage, computing, and network monitoring matrix. Based on the matrix, you have a better understanding about the resource usage, so that in the future, if the resource is out of I mean, it's short. If there are some shortage of your resource, you can take some immediate action to scale out or to buy more instance to meet your business needs. Okay. Great. Okay. Now I have a quick demo about the ECS, and let's take another quick break. Now it's 11:20. I may take another break for 10 minutes, and let's go back at 11:30. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask. We have Inshu on site to answer the questions.